Have you ever wondered why some people can read a book once and remember it for years, while others spend hours studying and forget almost everything a few days later? Think about that for a second. Most people believe the answer is intelligence. They think some people are simply born with better memories, better focus, better brains. But what if that's completely wrong? What if the real difference isn't talent at all? What if the biggest reason you're struggling to learn isn't because you're lazy, distracted, or not smart enough? What if it's because you're using a study method that was never designed to help you remember? Today you're going to discover an ancient learning technique that has survived for thousands of years. A technique used by philosophers, scholars, orators, and some of the greatest minds in history. And strangely enough, it often works better than many of the modern study methods people use today. The crazy part? Most students have never heard of it. And those who do hear about it usually underestimate how powerful it really is. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why this old learning technique can transform the way you learn, remember information faster, and retain knowledge for years instead of days. Let's start with a simple question. Why do we forget so much? You have probably experienced this. You study for an exam, you spend hours highlighting pages, you reread chapters, you watch videos, you take notes. Then the test arrives. Maybe you do okay. Maybe you even get a great grade. But a month later, most of the information is gone. It's like your brain hit the delete button. And that's not because your memory is bad. It's because most studying is based on exposure rather than retrieval. In other words, people spend most of their time putting information into their brains. Very little time is spent pulling information back out, and that's where the problem begins. Imagine you wanted to build muscle. Would you get stronger by looking at dumbbells? Of course not. You have to lift them, again and again. Your memory works the same way. Every time you force yourself to retrieve information, you strengthen the neural pathways connected to that knowledge. Every retrieval makes the memory stronger. Every struggle to remember makes learning deeper. And this is exactly where our ancient technique enters the picture. The technique is called active recall. While the term itself sounds modern, the concept is ancient. Long before smartphones existed, long before universities looked the way they do today. Long before digital flashcards and study apps, great thinkers understood something important. The act of remembering creates stronger memories. Ancient Greek scholars frequently trained themselves through questioning and verbal repetition. Roman speakers practiced speeches without reading scripts. They forced their minds to retrieve information repeatedly. Not because it was harder, because it worked. Think about how people passed knowledge before books were widely available. They couldn't rely on constant rereading. They had to remember. Stories, histories, poetry, philosophy, entire speeches. Knowledge survived because people trained retrieval, not passive review. Now compare that to modern studying. A student opens a textbook, reads the same paragraph 3 times, highlights half the page, feels productive, closes the book, and remembers almost nothing. Why? Because recognition is not memory. Just because information looks familiar doesn't mean you've learned it. This illusion fools millions of people. You read a sentence, it feels familiar, you think you know it, but then someone asks you to explain it. Suddenly your mind goes blank. Sound familiar? That's because recognition creates confidence. Retrieval creates learning. They're not the same thing. And this misunderstanding wastes countless hours every year. Here's a simple experiment. Read 1 page of information, then close the book. Without looking back, write down everything you can remember. At first it feels uncomfortable. You miss details. You struggle. You feel slow. Good. That discomfort is exactly what strengthens memory. The struggle is the workout. They return to rereading because it feels easier. But easy isn't always effective. The brain changes when it's challenged, not when it's comfortable. That's one reason active recall consistently outperforms passive review. But there's another reason. It exposes your weaknesses immediately. When you're rereading, it's easy to think you understand everything. When you're forced to recall, reality appears. You instantly discover what you know and what you don't know. That feedback is priceless, because now your study sessions become targeted, efficient, focused. Instead of reviewing everything, you focus on the gaps. And those gaps disappear much faster. Now here's where things get even more interesting. Modern neuroscience continues to support principles that ancient learners discovered through experience. The brain doesn't treat all information equally. Information that is retrieved repeatedly becomes more accessible, more durable, more permanent. It's like creating a trail through a forest. Walk it once and the path is barely visible. Walk it 100 times and the trail becomes impossible to miss. Every recall strengthens the path. Every successful retrieval makes future retrieval easier. That's why active recall compounds over time. The more you use it, the more powerful it becomes. And the benefits extend far beyond school. Imagine remembering people's names more easily, learning new skills faster, retaining information from books, mastering a new language, improving professional expertise. The same principle applies everywhere. Because memory is not just about exams. Memory is the foundation of learning itself. No memory, no knowledge, no expertise, no mastery. Now let me tell you about a common mistake. Many people discover active recall and immediately turn everything into flashcards. That's a great start, but the technique goes much deeper. You can practice active recall almost anywhere. After watching a documentary, summarize it from memory. After reading a chapter, explain it without looking at your notes. After learning a concept, teach it to someone else. After listening to a podcast, write down the key ideas you remember. The format doesn't matter nearly as much as the retrieval. The goal is always the same. Force your brain to reconstruct information, not merely recognize it. This is why teaching is one of the most powerful learning tools in existence. When you teach, you're constantly retrieving, organizing, connecting, explaining. Every explanation strengthens understanding. Every question reveals gaps. Every correction improves memory. Many experts become experts because they teach, not because they study more. Teaching becomes studying, and that's a powerful shift. Another fascinating aspect of this ancient approach is how it changes your relationship with mistakes. Most people hate forgetting. They see forgetting as failure. But active recall teaches a different lesson. Forgetting is feedback. Every forgotten fact reveals what needs reinforcement. Every mistake becomes valuable information. Instead of fearing errors, you start using them. The strongest learners aren't the ones who never forget. They're the ones who consistently identify and correct their forgetting. That process creates mastery, and mastery isn't built overnight. Which brings us to another ancient principle. Consistency beats intensity. Many people try to learn through massive study sessions. 6 hours today, nothing for 2 weeks, then panic, then another marathon session. The brain doesn't love that approach. Frequent retrieval over time produces stronger results. Short sessions, repeated often. Rhythm mirrors how memory naturally develops. Think of watering a plant. A little water consistently works better than flooding it occasionally. Learning works the same way. Small retrieval sessions create enormous long-term gains. Now imagine two students. Student A studies 4 hours by rereading notes. Student B studies 1 hour using active recall. Who remembers more a month later? Research repeatedly points towards student B, not because they spent more time, because they spent their time differently. That's the lesson many people miss. Productivity is not measured by effort alone. It's measured by results. And active recall delivers results. That's why top-performing students, medical professionals, language learners, and competitive exam candidates increasingly rely on retrieval-based learning. The method works, across subjects, across ages, across skill levels, across cultures. And perhaps the most exciting part is this. You can start today. No expensive course, no special software, no advanced degree, no secret knowledge, just one simple change. Stop asking, how many times can I read this? Start asking, can I recall this without looking? That single question can transform your learning. Because learning isn't what happens when information enters your eyes. Learning is what happens when information survives in your mind. And that's the difference. The world is filled with people consuming information. Watching videos, reading articles, listening to podcasts, scrolling endlessly. But consumption is not mastery. Knowledge only becomes valuable when it can be retrieved and applied. That's where true learning begins. So the next time you sit down to study, remember this: the goal isn't to make studying feel easy. The goal is to make remembering easier later. And the ancient learners who mastered memory understood that truth long before modern technology existed. They knew something many people still haven't discovered. The brain remembers what it works to remember, not what it casually observes. So challenge yourself. Close the book, put away the notes, ask questions, test yourself, struggle a little, retrieve information from memory, because every successful recall is building a stronger mind. And if this old technique has survived for thousands of years while countless study trends have disappeared, maybe that's telling us something. Maybe the most effective learning strategy isn't hidden in the newest app, the latest productivity hack, or the trendiest study method. Maybe it's been right in front of us all along. Simple, ancient, powerful, and waiting for you to use it. If you found this valuable, make sure you apply it today, not next week, because the best learning technique in the world is useless if it stays inside a video. Use it, practice it, master it, and watch what happens when your memory finally starts working the way it was designed to.